The Supreme Court has cleared the way for the Trump administration to move forward with plans for mass layoffs and a significant restructuring of federal agencies. In a ruling issued on July 8th, the nation's highest court lifted a lower court order that had put a halt to the administration's plans. That prior injunction, issued by U.S. District Judge Susan Ilston, had prevented large-scale job cuts, known as reductions in force, from proceeding while legal challenges continued. The case, titled Trump versus the American Federation of Government Employees, centers on an executive order signed by President Donald Trump and a related memorandum from the Office of Management and Budget. The lower court had blocked the government's actions, finding that the executive order and the memorandum were unlawful. The Supreme Court's decision vacates that block, allowing the administration to proceed with its agenda to reshape the federal civil service. This move is part of a broader administration effort to streamline government operations and reduce the size of the federal workforce. Proponents argue these changes are necessary for efficiency and to make it easier to remove underperforming employees. However, government employee unions have fought the measures, arguing they strip workers of due process protections and risk politicizing what has traditionally been a nonpartisan civil service. Meanwhile, another major administration initiative is moving forward following the passage of new legislation. Border Czar Tom Homan announced this week that Immigration and Customs Enforcement, or ICE, will significantly ramp up its arrests of illegal immigrants. The directive follows President Trump's signing of the nearly 900-page One Big Beautiful Bill Act into law on July 4th. When asked about the funding provided by the new law, Homan confirmed the money will be used for a variety of enforcement efforts. This includes the construction of more sections of the wall along the U.S.-Mexico border and a substantial expansion of ICE's operational capacity. The bill authorizes the hiring of 10,000 additional ICE officers and provides the agency with enough detention space for 100,000 illegal immigrants. This is facilitated by the addition of 80,000 new beds for the agency's detention centers. Homan specifically noted that ICE will be focusing its increased enforcement efforts on so-called sanctuary cities, explicitly naming New York City as a target. These jurisdictions have policies that limit their cooperation with federal immigration authorities, a stance that has created ongoing friction with the administration's enforcement priorities. While one part of that new law is set to expand enforcement, another provision is facing a swift legal challenge. A federal judge on July 7th issued an order that temporarily pauses a section of the One Big Beautiful Bill Act that would prevent Planned Parenthood clinics from receiving Medicaid reimbursements for 1 year. U.S. District Judge Indira Talwani of Massachusetts issued the temporary restraining order after regular business hours, moving with remarkable speed. The order came on the very same day that Planned Parenthood had filed its lawsuit against the Trump administration to block the law's enforcement. The ruling in the case, Planned Parenthood Federation of America, Inc. versus Kennedy, was issued ex parte, which means the court made its decision without first hearing arguments from the government's side. This legal action is the latest front in the long-running political and legal battle over federal funding for Planned Parenthood. While existing law already prohibits the use of federal funds for most abortion services, opponents have long sought to cut off all government funding to the organization. This new order also comes in the wake of a landmark Supreme Court ruling on June 27th that limited the ability of federal judges to issue injunctions with nationwide effect, which may influence the ultimate scope of Judge Talwani's order. Shifting from domestic policy to matters of national security and international trade, the U.S. government is moving to ban the purchase of American farmland by China and other foreign adversaries. Agriculture Secretary Brooke Rollins announced the initiative on July 8th, framing it as a critical measure to protect national security. The announcement was made during a high-level press conference that included Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth and Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem, underscoring the administration's view of the issue as a security threat, not just an economic one. Secretary Rollins stated that the administration plans to use a combination of executive actions and collaboration with individual states to implement the ban on land ownership by Chinese nationals and those from other designated adversary nations. However, during a call with reporters, Rollins acknowledged a significant limitation to the new policy. She clarified that her agency, the Department of Agriculture, does not have the legal authority to retroactively seize or force the sale of farmland that has already been purchased by Chinese and other foreign buyers. In her words, USDA is not in the role to be able to do that. This move reflects growing concern in Washington over the potential risks to the U.S. food supply chain and the strategic implications of foreign ownership of land near sensitive military sites. And finally, a significant development at the intersection of religion and politics. The Internal Revenue Service has signaled a major exception to a decades-old rule that has long governed the political activities of churches and other religious organizations. In a court filing on July 7th, the IRS outlined an exception to the Johnson Amendment, a rule that has for decades banned tax-exempt organizations from engaging in political campaigning. Under the new guidance from the federal agency, this ban will not apply to faith organizations when they are campaigning directly to their own members. This clarification from the IRS came as part of a lawsuit filed against the government by 2 Texas churches and the National Religious Broadcasters Association. These Christian groups had sought reforms to the law, arguing that the Johnson Amendment unconstitutionally prohibits non-profit, tax-exempt organizations from engaging in their right to political speech. The issue was a prominent topic during the last presidential campaign. President Donald Trump had told the evangelical and religious community that he wanted to repeal the law, which he said threatens religious institutions with a loss of their tax-exempt status if they openly advocate their political views. This new interpretation by the IRS is seen as a significant step toward that goal, allowing more explicit political speech within churches, synagogues, and mosques, as long as it is directed at their own congregations.